Bramborough back with some Grand Tactician Civil War in version 1.07 of the game. It is November 1861, so we have just crossed over into winter, but that is not slowing down the campaign action. I would prefer to keep things fairly quiet through the winter because of attrition, which I say almost every episode seems to be a bigger deal to me than it has been in the past. Johnny Reb has different ideas. Before we get into the theaters and what's happening, let's just take a quick run through of the tabs up here at the top. Strategy. Okay. Our national morale is doing well. The Confederacy's is still pretty high, but it is deteriorating. However, for this late into 1861 for a typical campaign, I think 81 is still pretty good. And I think that has something to do with the fact that not in all the battles, but at least in some of the battles, the AIs kind of, at least a couple times, kind of acted in such a way as if to say, I'm not playing that game. I'm not attacking into that fortification. So I don't think they're really taking quite as many casualties. CSA support, better than ours. I think that's pretty typical for this stage of the campaign. Their army's morale seems to be a little higher than ours. That seems a little odd to me, especially given the defeat that Early just took in Northern Virginia. We're doing pretty good on the manpower margin. We're almost at 120,000 at the moment, and they're at about 80,000. Of course, our Navy is bigger than the Confederates, naturally. That may not stay true, though. It has been pretty typical in this game that the enemy, you see this number balloon, or if you're playing CSA, you see this number balloon. The AI it tends to build a ton of ships, including and forming fleets with them that then don't seem to do much. And I've talked about that in the past, but at least for now we have a much larger Navy. And whether it stays that way or not, as far as this tonnage number, I am very confident that our Navy will get the job done and most of what we ask it to do. Starting to pull ahead just a hair on military experience. We have won the majority of the battles. Actually, I think we've won all the battles, haven't we? Although there was one early one that was quite close. Quite close. And we're doing slightly better than a 2-to-1 casualty ratio. Only slightly better. This part I don't quite get. I don't understand how our economy has taken almost as much losses as the Confederacy's has. In both cases, it's all from blockades and privateering. So it seems odd to me that the Confederacy is getting just as much bang for the buck from privateering as we are from blockading the majority of their seaports. That doesn't seem quite right. They just have the one port blockaded at Hampton, Virginia, which is only a Union port at all because of Fort Monroe. Compared to, we've got probably 15 or 16 CSA ports blockaded. I don't get this part. And then, similarly, I don't know where these economy numbers come from. And I think I've mentioned that before as well. We seem to be about even on weapons tech. But the Union is enormously higher in pretty much all other categories. So I don't quite know what goes into these numbers, 83.5 and 85.1. Maybe it's relative, right? Our numbers are all bigger, but they have to be bigger because we have more states and more population. So maybe these numbers are all these factors in the tooltip relative to the size of the economy. I guess. I don't know. Okay, enough of that. Speaking of economy, how are we doing? Well, I think we're doing pretty good. We're at AA minus for credit rating. We still maintain a surplus, which I think is pretty unusual in this game. And we're getting a lot of tariff and tax income. And this is one reason why, in an earlier episode I said I like having that tariff act available, but I don't feel compelled to use it right now. And this is why. We're getting good tariff income. And I'm managing to kind of keep the cost down. Zero politics subsidies and so forth, and not building very many buildings. But so far, we're doing okay on economy. I'm feeling pretty good about this. To the point where if I feel like I need to spend a lot of money on something, we've got the room to do that. You can see here we were doing about the same, and then the blockade starts taking an effect, and our tariff incomes continue to increase while the Confederacies fell off a cliff. Thank you, United States Navy. Okay. Policies. We are about halfway through Military 2. And there's a number of possibilities to follow on to that. One possibility is finishing out the militia acts. I think I'm pretty attracted to that. Another possibility is Diplomacy 1. I'm pretty attracted to that. At some point, I know I would like to pick up Breadbasket 1. And also, at some point, I would like to unlock the draft. Now, unlike I did in the past CSA campaign, I don't want to rely too heavily on the actual draft manpower. I mean, I will, but I'm not going to set all the armies to draft only replacements like I did in the past. I think that's too much of a drain on state support. What I'm looking at here, as I said in a previous episode, is the increased replacement speed that the draft gives us. So, draft or militia act. We already grabbed confiscation. Government funding too is an option, just to have war bonds and revenue act available. But like just like with the tariff act, I don't know that I would feel compelled to use those very quickly. How's our manpower doing? We have an 80,000 manpower pool for volunteers. I'm kind of thinking diplomacy, because I'd like to get some more diplomacy subsidies going. And maybe follow that up with Militia Act, breadbasket. It's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. Okay. Projects. We don't have too many available right now. Let's just kind of review the bidding on kind of what we're doing in each category. I'm not spending money on politics subsidies. You know, the last couple of campaigns I did a lot of railroad construction. I'm kind of off of that now. Because that railroad construction is expensive, and I'm just not sure that the benefit's worth it. Administration reform. I think there's some value to this, just because, like, right now, there's a bunch of policies that I won, and I'd like to get to them a little quicker. However, in the longer term, what I found in the past was you get to a point where you've gotten all the key policies, and there's not really anything else I'm interested in until we get to Chapter 3. And Chapter 3 is basically time-locked to November 1862. This occurs when the Union has the congressional elections. That's when Chapter 3 starts. And so then there's a bit of dead time where one is either just kind of researching nothing or just researching acts that really aren't all that thrilled about. Actually, how much is this legal blockade? 23. Nah, I don't think we need that. I think that the CSA, when the player is playing his Union, that the CSA, that the likelihood of actually achieving intervention is extremely low. So I don't think we need to worry too much about that. In any case, I was talking about projects. So I'm not really pursuing any of these because I think that a lower subsidy level, putting less pressure on the budget, that in itself is worth more than any of these. Kind of the same with economic subsidies. Now, subsidized banks is a little bit different for Union because the CSA only has one bank. The Union, I think, has more. I think we've got 4. So this might actually be worth pursuing a little bit. How many banks do we have? Let's check that out. I think it's 4. Let's do it this way. A little bit of lag there. Yeah. Brooklyn, Pittsburgh, Portland, Maine, and Boston. I'm kind of changing my mind a little bit on this. Let's go back and what is max economy? That's 12.5. How much does that project cost? $5 million. So if I put it right at 5 million, that's I think that is over a year. Meaning this is 5 million a year. So it would be November 1862 before we were able to actually implement that policy. And if we go max at 12.5, we'd be able to implement a project, not policy, sorry. we'd get it in about 5 months or so. I'm going to put it at 7.5. Should get us there in about 9 months. Let's do that. Okay. We do have a few markets too. I am not convinced that it's worth the money. Either to use this project for our existing markets or to build more markets. And that is partially because I'm not convinced that the supply, that the goods flow in this game is really working quite like they want. I think we're going to see some changes on that at some point. Agricultural subsidies. I did spend some ag subsidies a while back building some salt works because we have no salt in our economy. Still pursuing farm mechanization with ag subsidies. Probably a couple levels to bump up our volunteer manpower pool. I'm interested in both of these industry subsidy projects. Kind of equally, to be honest. Although I'm not 100% sure about infrastructure reform for the same reason I just mentioned I'm not 100% sure about markets. But I think I'm probably going to bop back and forth between these two, and we're getting fairly close to the first one. Civil order is actually a military subsidy over here on the civil side, and the first level really isn't that terribly expensive, but of course it competes with all these things over here. But if I'm going to use the draft, because that's what it does, each level of this project further decreases negative impact on support from military actions. I think this counteracts state support loss from the draft. I think that's what it does. It doesn't specifically say that in this statement, but the descriptive language up here speaks to that. I kind of like trade deals, but I'm not using Diplo subsidies for that in this campaign. I'm using Diplo subsidies for imported weapons projects. And we still have quite a ways to go, and that's why I'm interested in bumping up to Diplomacy 1 at least to get some more Diplo subsidies coming. Just first, I'd like to just have an alternative source of kind of standard infantry rifles. Austrian rifles would give us that with the Lorenz. British rifles would do that with the Enfield, and would also unlock the Whitworth, which is something I would like to try in this campaign. But of course, it's more expensive, and the Whitworth is why, I think. Not particularly interested in British artillery. I'm sure that what is there is good. Blakely rifles, breech-loading Whitworth rifles. But I think I'm pretty happy with the Wireds and the 3-inch ordnance. If I were to get this much subsidy, I think what I would prefer is Prussian weapons, which I see a lot of comments people talking about. And that gives us a very nice, I assume a very nice, breech-loading artillery piece as well. And the Dreiss needle gun, which is a breech-loading rifle. I'm kind of interested in trying that thing. And I'm not interested in any warship projects at all. For diplomacy. I am hoping I don't need to go to any warship projects and military subsidies as well. As long as the Confederacy doesn't produce ironclads on their own, I think we can probably skate past having to use these. I think. If we start seeing Confederate ironclads show up, I mean, I'm going to have to grab something here. But I'm kind of crossing my fingers that I don't have to. Military subsidies, though, we've already taken one. Recruitment offices, I'd like to take another one, but I'm feeling a little bit of pressure here to go to artillery reform. Well, if I can find it, where's the damn thing? Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the pressure to go to artillery reform next, for the simple reason that the Confederacy has already done it, and they've got bigger artillery units. And I do not want to fall behind in that regard. We've got a lot of rifled artillery coming. We've got a lot of 24-pound howitzers already in the armory. I think we do. So, yeah, we need bigger units. Artillery units. I think I'm doing this next. I know I'm interested in doing cavalry reform fairly soon, because the little 500 trooper brigades, they're fine for scouting, and that's all they're fine for. Matter of fact, they're even impacted a little bit in that, because they're so small they can't even put out scout units, which improves the vision while scouting. So even for scouting, I'm interested in getting bigger cav units. Okay, I've talked enough about projects. And I think that will do. Let's see what's going on in the various theaters. Over here in Virginia, we're finishing up a battle just fought, seen in the last episode. So as soon as this clears up, Early will be, ideally, retreating back south, probably back right here to where the Army of the Potomac is, the Confederate Army of the Potomac. You know, what I need to do... one thing in that battle, remember I had moved the Shenandoah Army a little bit closer to be in reinforcement range. Even in that battle, still was not in reinforcement range. I guess I have to practically co-locate these armies. And then the other thing is, twice now Early has been able to take this route up here and then get up behind McDowell. Now, we've beaten him both times, but eventually he might do it with a bigger army. And every time he's done that, we've at least temporarily lost control of this supply depot. And we're going to get it back, again, if, whenever Early does this, there is that little window where the Confederacy could burn the damn thing down. Don't want that to happen. So I need to move the Potomac Army kind of over here, probably put it somewhere near this particular intersection to block this route, and then bring the Shenandoah Army over to about where the Potomac Army is sitting. But I'm not going to... Well, I could move the Shenandoah Army now, I guess. I just can't move the Potomac Army until this battle clears. And why are battle monuments? Oh. There we go. So let's move the Shenandoah Army kind of over about here. Actually, you know what? Let's put them back up near Manassas. The idea is I kept them over here because I want them able to go respond to stuff in the Shenandoah Valley as well. I don't think there's a huge threat of that at the moment, unless there's an unspotted army. Let's put Patterson here. And then we'll try to slide the Potomac Army right about here. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work either. I probably need to put one army here, one army here. As a matter of fact, countermand that order. Anyway, that's what's going on in Virginia. Other than those small adjustments, I'm fine with really these armies kind of hanging out in winter quarters. Over in Missouri, I'm skipping all the way over there for a reason. Kind of the same thing. We know that the Missouri State Guard is here. They're about 4,000 men. We're building a hospital. I'm happy for this to stay static through the winter as well. And similar situation in West Virginia with McClellan's army. They're in winter quarters, great supply situation. Happy for that to remain that way through the winter, if the Confederacy cooperates. That leaves Tennessee, where stuff is happening. First of all, we've got our siege going. The Cumberland Corps has come down and has besieged Fort Hyman. That happened a couple episodes ago, but time hasn't really advanced. And this siege is slightly in our favor. We're going to, hopefully Isaac Stevens can come out with a win there. Meanwhile, 3 Confederate armies have come up. The Army of Mississippi, Polk's Command, and the Army of Georgia. And they have besieged Fort... I called it Fort Grant. I think the game is still calling this Fort Beauregard. And Grant's army is involved in that siege. And the issue here is, right now the game is saying Confederacy is going to win this out of hand. The garrison for Fort Grant, I don't think has yet arrived, right? That's why it's zeroed out, because there are 0 units, or 0 troops involved in this siege right now, because the troops in the Army of Tennessee, they're here, but they haven't quite registered as being present. I don't want to take the chance that this thing gets resolved as Confederate victory before those troops are incorporated. And even if they are, Grant's troops are all confident morale, whereas all these Confederates, well, at least some of them, you got eager. Army of Mississippi are determined. Polk's guys are mostly eager. So I don't know if that... man, Polk's army is actually pretty big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 infantry brigades. So even when Grant's men are incorporated into this siege, I am not confident that this thing would go in our favor, just for morale reasons. So I'm not going to wait. Do have the option to convert it to a tactical battle, and I think that's what I'm going to do. The question is, do I need to wait for Grant's men to at least be reflected here? And if I do wait, might we not just lose the siege entirely beforehand? I'm kind of a little apprehensive about letting time advance at all. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and do it, and let's see what happens. Okay, here we are. We are on the Murfreesboro map for the Battle of Fort Beauregard. Apparently one can rename a fort garrison, but it doesn't rename the fort, I guess, which is a little irritating. I could swear in the past that I would change the name of a fort garrison, and it would change the name of the fort, but apparently not. So Fort Beauregard it is, and I'll probably just change the name of the garrison back if I can't change the name of the fort itself. Anywho, so there's good news and bad news. The good news is we do have a defensive situation. I think that is pretty clear to be advantageous. And we've got some decent defensive terrain near the objective, right? We've got a larger creek, which I believe cannot be crossed in the absence of a crossing. And there's not that many crossings in the area. There is a bridge here, a ford here. The Confederate entry points are over here at Salem and this road here. And we can also see from the shape of our deployment zone that the Confederate deployment zone butts up right against it here. So the Confederates are almost certainly spawning in this area. I don't see, all these other entry points over here are all non-controlled. So here's where they are. And I believe they're all also on the field now, based on the numbers I'm seeing. Okay. So I believe right in here is where we're going to set up our defense, utilizing these woods and this creek. So that's pretty good. That's the good news. The bad news is there's a little bit more Confederates here than I thought there were going to be. I didn't mention it in the comments back out on the campaign map. The numbers were visible, though. I thought that this combined force was going to be about the size of Grant's army, because I was seeing about 14,000 infantry, a couple thousand cav. There's more than that. The Confederacy has 24,000 men on. Now that's an estimate, but I don't think it would be 7,000 off. So there are more Confederates here, and we're looking at where's the strength report? Yeah, we've got about 16,000 infantry to his 19,000, about 1,000 cav to his 4,000. Now this might be 8 little tiny 500-man brigades. Or he might have done cav reform. I don't know. Bottom line is, it's not a huge disparity. It's not like a 2-to-1 thing, but they do significantly outnumber us, right? I thought it was going to be about even, and it isn't. And the other piece of that bad news is Grant's army is still not fully rifle equipped. The Virginia armies are. McClellan's army is. Grant's is not. He has 7 infantry brigades, and I think 4 of them are armed with Springfield muskets, not rifle muskets. Now, I doubt that the Confederacy, that the Confederate forces are all rifle armed either. But the combination of being outnumbered and not all rifle armed, this may wind up being kind of the most severe test in the new 1.07 that we've yet faced in this campaign. So I don't know how this is going to go. In any case, that's kind of what the setup, the situation is, and I'm going to set up this defensive position. I'm kind of expecting that what the rebels are going to want to do is come down this road or this road, cross the creek here, or come down this way. He may be right there. I don't think so. I kind of feel like if the rebel army spawned right here, that our cav would probably be able to see it from here. So I don't think they're here. And so we're going to set up a position here to, probably a division here against this ford. Probably a division here facing up this road. And I think we'll put the cav kind of over here someplace, just to watch and watch this road over here and see if, you know, so we get some early warning if they head for this bridge. Let's put the cav here. And I don't know if I'm going to set up a full division here, but I'll probably leave one in reserve to be able to react to over here if necessary. All right, I'm going to set that up. A little bit of scouting to do. Reb's got some marching to do, and but it is 12:30, so just after noon, and the Rebels don't have very far to march. I'm pretty sure that not only will there be spotting today, but probably some amount of combat, with the main battle probably coming in the morning. We'll see how it goes. Okay, this is what I've set up, kind of like I discussed a little bit earlier. I wanted to make sure that this ford was actually within engagement range, and that meant couldn't quite sit back here in these trees. Did have a few little engineering points, so I've put some breastworks here. Putting them that far forward, though, it's kind of a goofy looking. I didn't really like. I wanted this division up a little bit further, so I built breastworks over here, and this used up all the engineering points. So 2 brigades here, 2 brigades here, and then this division's 3rd brigade is kind of sitting here, you know, either to reinforce these brigades if this is where the main attack occurs, or can orient this way. The 3rd division under Charles Hamilton, initially I'm just going to have these guys build some kind of preemptive breastworks here, work on their perk slot XP, in case that the rebels come down here. It is entirely possible that they will not be able to complete those and will have to hoof it over here. Or, who knows, this may wind up being where Johnny Reb really wants to cross. So that is what is happening. All right, I'll be back. The Rebels' leading cav has been spotted coming down the old Nashville Stage Road, which is kind of one of the routes that we foresaw. If the other Rebs are all coming behind them, and I'm sure that there are at least some, this is where the most likely focus of the combat is going to be, which is good for us in the sense that there's a lot of open ground. Our artillery, rifled artillery back here, is already opening up on these lead cav elements. There are 3 separate Confederate forces, some of which aren't very large, but so this doesn't mean that there aren't more Rebs coming this way, but if there are, they have not been spotted yet. Cav is sitting here keeping watch, and there's a couple of skirms sitting here keeping watch. That's where we're at. There are other rebel units coming down this road, so I'm kind of thinking they're wanting to set up a position kind of like this on both sides of the creek. This is interesting. These rebel forces over here came down here, I guess didn't like what they saw, and they are reorienting themselves, crossing the creek, going back this way. I don't think that's something we would have seen in 1.06 or earlier. I don't think. Anyway, I thought that was worth throwing in a quick clip. We've got a little bit of a skirmisher action going on up here that the rebels are having to clear out. The skirms have done well so far. They've inflicted roughly 300 casualties. They've only lost 18. They're going to get driven in, right? But at least for the moment, they're giving the rebels a little bit of problems. This artillery brigade, wavering, falling back. He's lost some guns already. And one of the small cav brigades, they actually routed it. I mean, they're very unresponsive. There's not much I can do about King's detachment here. He's taking some... Yeah, King's guys are coming in. But I'm going to continue to let Ord's skirmishers... there. That battery is fully routed. Battalion now. They've got the artillery reform. But that battalion is routed. That's good. I'm just still kind of keeping watch over here. If an opportunity comes up where he could actually maybe do something, I think if he comes over here, though, he may get himself in all kinds of trouble. Let's orient these guys this way. There's some more infantry coming over here. I think they all kind of came over here to form up because these are the... Well, these other guys had to have seen these units. I can't believe that they're responding to just a couple skirmishers thinking this is where the main force is. Pretty good harassing fire there. Yeah, see, there's a routed cav brigade here, a routed artillery unit here. And the losses have been just enough where it is ticked over to a minor victory for us because we've dropped the Confederate morale just a little bit. They're still slightly higher than us. The 2 routed units and a tiny bit of losses. Well, we had a routed unit as well, but that's a skirm unit. You know what? Let's go ahead and pull. I think they've done enough. Let's not yet let that skirmisher unit just get routed. Come on back. You guys did good, man. Took 3 casualties in these skirms. 29 total for almost 400 inflicted. We're about to get a couple points from the first cycle of the victory point as well. Okay, now they're wanting to come do something about this cav. Well, we don't want that. Come on back. Come back to a little scouting position there. Okay, so that little action, forward action, is done with for now. I'll be back. Interesting again. Skirmishers kind of pulled back here, and now they're reorienting. And they're coming back across the creek over here. I think that's interesting. I don't quite know what to make of it. I mean, did they really reorient an entire, 24,000 man army to clear out a couple skirmisher units here in these woods? Anyway, So that is happening. Okay. Okay, it's about a little after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This is November, so sunset will be about 6 p.m. So we got not quite 2 hours remaining. But the rebels are making an assault on our right. And I think that is notable because the whole force, didn't reach its intended formation, as far as I could tell. Still got this cat back here to kind of keep a watch on the rear. Let's move him up a little bit. And make that artillery nervous there. And we've got tiny dismounted cav here facing off against tiny dismounted cav here. Intended the skirmishers to help out over here, but they might get in trouble there. You know what? I think that those skirms may be... No. Anyway. I've also got Hamilton's division coming back over this way. I don't think there's any rebels coming this route. These guys back here are still kind of balled up in the woods. They were held up by some skirms. I think they're going to be trying to cross this ford. Over here just kind of protecting the artillery division. What's happening over here? A lot of Johnny Rebs back in these woods. There's some more guys back here who I don't know what they're doing. Frankly, I hope they stay back there for a little while. Okay, these skirms are driven in. They were kind of in a bad spot. Moore's Cav Brigade doing well over here. Real quick here. Right here, I've got a battery of 24-pound howitzers. And I've got them right on the breastworks. And I've got them located right here with 2nd Brigade, right? I didn't separate them out. They're right here in Kearney's line. And I think that works. I believe, for the longest time, I would separate them because I thought that the artillery being intermingled with the infantry would block their LOS. I don't think that's true. But Kearney's brigade, I have his initiative turned off. And the reason is, when they're sitting in fortification, breastworks or parapets, and then they'll rotate to fire at someone. Okay, that's initiative. And they keep their cover, or they lose a little bit. They may drop from green to yellow, but they don't lose cover entirely by doing that. So in most cases, I let them rotate because that lets them react better to the threats to their front. But in this case, with this artillery in here, I don't want them rotating. If there's a Confederate force over here, and Kearney rotates like so to orient this direction, then this wing of his brigade falls back a little bit, and now that artillery is sitting there in front of them and is more exposed. In the previous battle, that was a factor in how our Gatling unit, I believe, got exposed and then charged and routed. Because he was kind of sitting in there with their brigade that then rotated and left them exposed. What did I do with these guys? Okay, yeah. They can rotate to face this direction if Wool deems it advisable. I think I'm okay with that. Wool has rifles. Kearney does not. This is a musket unit right here. That may become a factor. Yeah. Wool's rotating there. Cab has been put away. Let's bring the cab over here and keep them dismounted. Actually, what I should have done was just send them in right on the flank of this brigade. That was a mistake. I can't really undo it now. Howitzers are doing okay. I think this came from the skirmisher unit. That'll clear in a little while. Okay, Kieran's doing okay there. Kind of amazed that these skirms haven't really been affected that much. Get some canister going here. Everything just about canister range. 24-pound howitzers. Come on in, boys. What's going on over here? Okay. Prentice's division is now engaged against these guys trying to cross the ford. Can't work out very well for it. Okay, let's get this cav right up here in these breastworks. In you go. Okay, he's getting breastwork cover now, even though he's not right up in it. He's getting credit for it. That's good. And those Maynards should help against Van Doren's brigade for rate of fire. What? This entire division was supposed to come over here. Go. Like this 8th Brigade here. Who is that? Holmes. Presumably Theophilus Holmes. I'm not aware of any other Holmes. Oh, that artillery's not doing so hot. Let's get this brigade beaten back, and then I'll pull that artillery back. Keep firing for now. It's a race between that brigade and this artillery battalion. Okay, this is looking a little dicey over here. It's getting to be a pretty heavy attack. I don't know why. Hamilton's whole division should be over here by now. Still have Mitchell in reserve. I'm not quite sure where he's going to be needed yet. I'm kind of feeling let's get him up into here. Like about so. I don't believe that, well, he's under artillery fire. From where exactly, I'm not 100% sure. Let's go ahead and pull him back. Cav isn't doing too hot here. And Van Dorn, given his position and all the fire he... Oh, we lost this artillery as well. Okay, there's no reason for Kearney not to be able to rotate if he wants to. I don't know, he's not flanked. Let's just leave him where he is. Back here. I don't know if Moore is going to get out of there without routing. I think this is holding okay over here. Back in the green cover, directly facing this brigade. Cav hasn't broken yet. Let's get this artillery back over here. Where he is needed most. Let's actually detach him. Let's get Mitchell working on the flank of these brigades here. Somebody got wounded. Lytle? Commander of the 1st Division. Yeah. This is where it's toughest over here. And the cav did break. Okay, this artillery's moving. Alright. We need to get Hamilton's division over here. The problem is they got to... Ooh, it's getting... we better bring them up kind of in the middle. Even though it's woods, kind of feels like we're going to need one brigade here and one brigade here. Okay, Pemberton, broken. Let's have Mitchell come over here and roll up the flank if he possibly can. Hold tough, Kearney. I think Kearney needs to be able to rotate if he needs to. I'm going to go ahead and turn initiative back on for him. And they're taking a morale hit from Lytle getting wounded. Well, this is kind of, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of forces in here. It looks scary, but they're all balled up in this ford, and the morale's going to hell. I think that'll be okay there. Oh, this artillery's still firing from back there. That's cool. Glacial. Mitchell's brigade is trying to get out of these woods. That's why they're not moving so well. It looks like they're beginning to retreat. Yeah, we're pretty. Yeah, they're retreating. I wonder what kind of. I think if that cav runs up in there and tries to, I think that's going to wind up being some problems. Kearney doesn't particularly want to rotate, I guess. I'm not going to make him. Okay, he's taking almost 600 casualties, but I can't really pull him out. I can advance Wool, though. Let's bring Wool out of the breastworks. Let's bring him to about here. Let's continue to advance Mitchell now that he's out of the woods. This attack has been completely beaten back. All those brigades routed. And the enemy is retreating. That was a fairly strong attack. I wasn't all that confident, I guess. Now all these guys are routed. Let's see if we can get up in there and bag some arty. That could be dangerous. They're not. That arty is not routed. I don't even know what the casualty situation is. 4,600, 1,300. So a little over 3 to 1. It's taken 20.2%. We're not that far from being able to pop a major victory here. That's interesting. Oh, that's the Arkansas. There's a detachment in there too, but that's the... Well, yeah, there's two different... Tolliver's detachment, but that is a cav detachment. Oh, probably scouts. Yeah, I think they've got the. I think they've got the cav reform. All right, let's see what kind of. Let's see how this works out here. Grierson and Rowley. detachment in battery. What's going on up here? There's still an unbroken brigade here. I don't want Kearney taking more casualties. This is just a small cav unit here, so let's go ahead and have Mitchell move in on him. Okay. Raleigh is routed one and has got another one wavering. Keep going. Keep going. Faster than that. Come on now. Some kind of parade. I can't quite see, but I think he's doing some kind of weird pirouette there in the woods. I guess these brigades over here didn't get the memo that they're supposed to be retreating. Okay. And he's pursuing him without me having to prompt him to do so. I don't understand why this brigade hasn't taken more casualties than he has. Kearney, just pull back, bro. Okay, alright. Well, I thought we were going to get there for the major, but I guess not. Okay, so about 1,500 casualties for us and 5,000 for... Oh, apparently Robert E. Lee was our commanding general opponent there. Army of Georgia. About 5,000 for Lee's guys, 1,500 for Grant's. Grant versus Lee. As often as I've played this game, I think it's been a while, quite a while, since I had a Grant versus Lee battle. Typically because I typically have Grant in the west and I typically have Lee in the east. Or vice, you know. Anyway. I would imagine that our 1st Division probably did the heavy... well, the other division was sitting there shooting fish in a barrel on the ford. So maybe... yeah, 1st Division not that much actually. 1,300. Only 2 brigades, one of which was Kearney's musket armed, and he was really tanking, I guess, more than... 1,300 is not bad, though. 6th Division, that was the cav way over on the right flank. They did pretty good before they routed, considering it was only 500 dudes, or less. And 2nd Division, this was the division sitting on the ford. Yeah, they made hay over there. And these casualties here, this is basically what drove this thing to a victory for Grant. Their attack over on our right was strong, didn't succeed, but It was dicey over there, but in our center. Prentice's second division just murdered those guys on the fort. Well, I thought that was a fairly interesting battle. Some of the things that we saw as the AI made their approach. There you have it. Captain Ross. Well, he's a captain, therefore he must have been an artillery battery commander. He was probably the 24-pound howitzer commander, sitting with Kearney. That unit did rout. I wish I'd thought to have a look at how well our smoothbore and rifled artillery did. They were banging away pretty good. I should have looked at how they did. Can't go back now. Victory at Fort Beauregard. Okay, Lee retreating. Captain Ross. General Lee loses face. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Even though I'm playing Union, it pains me to see that. 2,300 rifles. Or infantry arms. A lot of those could be smoothbores. Captured 13 artillery, and we managed to capture 25 dudes. Let's have a look at the weapons stash. See if anything jumps out. These all look the same. Nothing's jumping out at me there. Nope. Nope. No. I've got 1,900 of these. So it just so close to being able to do another brigade, but I couldn't find a brigade that was quite that small. How many days do we have left on this order? 42 days. So what is that going to be? Right around Christmas. Right around Christmas, these are going to show up. That'll be a nice. I'll put some Springfield rifle muskets under the tree for the boys. Yeah, I don't think we really captured anything other than mixed muskets and mixed cav weapons. Nothing's jumping out at me that wasn't there before. Okay, so winter's going to continue. We didn't actually advance time at all this episode because of the battle, but winter will continue in the next episode, and Isaac Stevens is going to continue working on these forts over here, and that will do for now. If you like what we're doing with the channel, if you like the content, then leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe. If you're new to the channel in the series and want to catch up on other episodes in this series that you may not have seen yet, I'm linking the playlist to this series here. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it.